Hello, hi everybody, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our new episode of JoynPlayce on Air, the live broadcast that takes you into the world of the Italian Storyliving Experience. I'm Stefania Molinari. I will be your host today. I'm art director of JoynPlayce and experience designer. So our goal today is for you to fully immerse in our story, in this new kind of travel experience where we put together entertainment and education and a gamification approach, let's say. Each experience in our catalog has been created together with talented collaborators all around Italy, and very soon you will meet one of them. Before I go on, please write us in the comments. Tell us who you are, where you come from, and at the end of the show, I will be very glad to answer to your questions if there's any, of course. Well, today we're not presenting just one story, but we are presenting two story living experiences. So I will try to be kind of quick in my introduction. But first of all, I really would like to explain why we have chosen this name, JoynPlayce, which may be sound a little bit weird at first, I think, but think of the words which compose this name: joy, happiness, join, which means sharing emotion, passions, being together, create relationships, then play. So be the protagonist of the experience, getting involved and learn through doing things. And the last word is place. That's because every JoynPlayce experience is deeply rooted in one special place. That single story, and now I will also tell you why we call our activities stories, could only take place in one particular location. So stories, why? Well, that is because our story living experience framework, the most important feature is the story living. That means that there is a very simple adventure behind all the story that makes it possible to immerse completely in the experience. The protagonists, our tourists, but we don't really like to call them tourists. They are the protagonists of the experience. They have a role. And in this very simple role, they have to accomplish a mission. By doing that, they meet, they learn, they live, they experiment, they feel, and most of all, they have the time of their lives. So now, let's go on to today's story. I'm very glad to introduce you my first guest. She's a very special person, Monica Gambarotto. Eccola, la nostra Monica. Hi, Monica.
Hello.
Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much.
Are my special guest for today. As I told you, you're our special person to us, but please, here's the stage. Present yourself.
Well, as you've heard, my name is Monica. I am a qualified professional tourist guide in Venice. I speak Italian, Russian, and trying to speak English, although it's been months since I haven't spoken it. So sorry if I make mistakes. Venice as a whole is my main passion. It's history, it's art, its craftsmanship is also important to me. And eventually, over the years, I've been a tourist guide for more than 20 years now. And eventually, I started to feel my job as a mission, because I understand that this is a very good way to spread out beauty. And to put it in Dostoevsky's words, beauty will save the world. And it's really something that I believe, definitely. I got involved with experience tourism, and in particular with JoynPlayce, thanks to some colleagues, I should say. Those colleagues that know me quite well, that know how much I like to experiment new things, and how important it is to me to grow as a person and also as a professional. And by the way, it has always been one of my priorities to help my guests live memorable experiences in Venice.
And Monica, you have been professionally trained to become an operator, right?
Yes, of course. It was quite quite an interesting training, I should say. It has been so important to understand how to make this priority of mine to get the best out of it, definitely. So it was a long training, but I'm really glad I took it.
Right. So let's go inside this framework, the Storyliving Experience framework, with your story. Invitation to the Carnival Grand Ball. And as I've just said, there is a mission to accomplish. So our tourists, what's the role of our tourists here?
Like I said before, Stefania, we're not dealing with tourists anymore, right? And so my guests in this Storyliving experience are people that long to receive an invitation to the Venetian Grand Ball, the Carnival Grand Ball in Venice. And in order to do that, they have to get deeper into the traditions, the history of Venice, in particular of the 1700s, which was the golden age of the Venetian Carnival. So we meet, we walk around Venice, we hit different spots, different workshops also, in order to understand everything that goes on behind the Carnival in the past and also today.
So to deserve this invitation to the Grand Ball, they will have to go through different activities, right?
Definitely. That's
okay. So I leave you the stage with the photos and tell us more.
So here, as you can see, we meet in Venice. We start talking about the Carnival, but we get immediately deep in the atmosphere by visiting a very important workshop. So next picture, please. And this is the first workshop that we'll visit. It is an atelier called Sogno Veneziano, the Venetian Dream, where Giulia, Igor, her husband, and their co-workers create masks and historical costumes. In the next picture, we can see that Giulia is explaining all the details about masks in Venice. They're totally handmade out of papier-mâché, and you really need skillful artisans to create papier-mâché masks. There are different sorts of masks. Some of them concern the art comedy. Some others instead would be worn in everyday life in Venice in those days. And in the next picture, you can see one particular moment after having talked about the masks, when Giulia helps some of the guests dressing up for the grand ball. So what is behind the stage? I mean, under the clothes themselves. And believe me, when you change your clothes, you feel different. You are totally immersed into a totally different atmosphere. In this picture,
and this is you, Monica.
It's me with a friend of mine. We like to do that once in a while, to be part of the Venetian Carnival ourselves. And really, it's something that I've tried myself. It's a different feeling that you get. So after we've learned about the masks and the costumes, it's time to learn more about some other traditions of the Venetian Carnival. And one of the traditions, of course, culinary. In the 1700s, Venice became the capital of coffee and chocolate, two very important drinks. Chocolate back then was not eaten. Here we have a beautiful variety of chocolate in this picture here. This is entirely handmade by Mariangela, the lady of the previous picture that we'll see in some other pictures. But back then, chocolate would not be eaten, it would be drunk. It was a drink. But this drink would be made according to a very special recipe with the use of a mixture of spices. Now, Mariangela, the owner of this workshop called Vizio e Virtù, Vice and Virtue, underlining the fact that chocolate can be definitely a vice, but also a virtue. Well, she discovered in an ancient book one such recipe, and she prepares the chocolate according to the recipe of the 1700s, and we can taste this fabulous drink. Eventually, we'll walk along the narrow streets of Venice to hit some important places that are relevant for the history and the traditions of the carnival. In this very picture here, we're standing on the left. We look like small creatures on the left, but we stand right in front of that orange house that you can see on the right, which is one of the houses where a famous Venetian lived for a while. And the name of this famous Venetian is Giacomo Casanova. Who doesn't know Giacomo Casanova? And it'll be a good chance then for me to tell you a little bit about him, about the jokes that he would organize during the carnival. Eventually, we'll keep walking towards the Rialto area, which was another very important spot during the carnival, and we'll stand in front of an interesting monument that you can see here in the background. It's the monument to Carlo Goldoni. Not everybody knows Carlo Goldoni, I understand that, but he was a playwright, a fairly important playwright, not only in Venice, but also for the Italian theater as a whole. And it'll be a good chance for me to tell you more about the theater and how important it was in the 1700s. During the carnival in particular, a picture has been anticipated, and this is the icing on the cake of our experience, of our story living experience. At the end of the walk, during which I'll tell you more about a whole lot of details like confetti, like the beheading of the bull, all these moments that were so important in the Venetian Carnival, we'll reach a very interesting place. It is today a hotel with Gothic elements on the outside, and here we'll meet a very special person, and her name is Maribel. Maribel, you can see here Maribel in the foreground, together with a friend of mine, Stefano, dancing. Maribel is a dance teacher. She's very fond of ancient dancing, and she will teach us minuet. Here she is showing the steps, showing how to move. Consider that all the guests are dressed in normal clothes, but she'll be good enough as to tell you how you're supposed to move when you wear such incredible clothes, like the ones that were worn in the 1700s. And it was not a problem only for ladies with those large clothes, but also for men that would wear particular clothes as well. This moment will need a little bit of attention, a little bit of effort, but really it deserves, and it's really a lot of fun. At the end, you'll know the main steps of minuet. Nothing of this kind can be found nowadays in Venice. It's really unique. It's a special event. At the end of the dance lesson, we'll gather together, we'll decide whether you've been good enough in dancing, whether you've learned what you needed to learn, both from the point of view of the dancing, but also from the point of view of the history and traditions. And at the very end, you'll get your diploma, your certificate that will certify that you now deserve an invitation to the Carnival Grand Ball in Venice.
So mission is accomplished.
The mission is accomplished, and so we can celebrate, as you can see. One thing that I would like to stress, if you have taken a look at the pictures, I mean, everybody's cheerful, everybody's laughing, smiling. It's really an experience that involves everybody so much, and it becomes memorable, the time of your life, as you were saying before, Stefania, right? It is quite interesting to stress the fact that this is an experience that can be organized at any time of the year, not necessarily for the carnival. Obviously, okay, let me tell you this. Obviously, the experience cannot end with a real carnival grand ball, okay? Because those are special, unique events that take place only during the carnival. And they needed to be organized by expert event planners. It's not something that we can just create in 2 minutes, okay?
But you will be ready to participate.
Sorry?
But you will be ready to participate.
Definitely, that's the point. Okay, sometimes people cannot afford to participate. And so it's a way for them to live a short experience of the Venetian Carnival, even when it's not Carnival. On the other hand, if you can afford, if you have time and the possibility of participating in a real grand ball, well, after such an experience, you're sure you can get the most out of it.
Sure, and we have a video. Wonderful. I just love it. Really like to be there. But Monica, so it's not just you who share your incredible passion and who make this Storyliving experience possible. We have seen so many partners. So they're not here with us today, but we are glad to introduce them to our audience. Let's start with Giulia from Atelier Sogno Veneziano.
Hi everybody, I'm Giulia Russolo. I'm the owner of Sogno Veneziano Atelier. Today I want to introduce you my magical dream world. That's why I decided to collaborate with Laura and Monica. The project of the Grand Ball of Carnival has many things to do with my dresses, with my creation, and the seduction of Laura too. So you can see in my show window the new collections that I have realized. And all of this is possible because here I want to realize my passion. My passion is history, is culture, And everything that we do in our shop is totally handmade. So here you can see some example of our masks. And when you wear a mask, you can really transform in anybody you want to transform. All our creations are done in real paper mache, as I told you, with a lot of care and love. And if you want to have a look at my atelier, come with me. In here, I realize my creations. Everything is totally embroidered and handmade. And when you wear something like this and following the project, you will be taught how to wear a costume. You will be ready to attend a big carnival. Venice is magic. Venice is a dream. So come join us to live your dreams.
Sogno veneziano is a real dream.
Real dream, definitely.
Yes.
I forgot to mention, if I can add something, Stefania, that
Sure.
all the costumes that you've seen, all the costumes that are prepared, that are sewn, are created with accurate philological research, accurate philological research. So they're exactly like they would be in the 1700s, okay? So
And handmade.
And totally handmade.
Totally handmade. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, she never could chose such a perfect name. Sogno veneziano, Venetian dream. It's really a dream. It is. And our next guest is Gianluca. Gianluca is the owner of the Hotel La Corte di Gabriela, where we have our class, our Minuetto dance class. So please, director, the video. What happened to our video? Let's see if we can see it.
A bit. Maybe some problems.
But maybe something happened. Well, in the mean,
the connection stopped. We have a little problem.
Okay, no problem, Francesca. We talk about La Corte di Gabriela because in the very first scenes of this video, you have seen a lot of food, but there is a meaning for that. Monica, would you like to tell us?
Well, first of all, Gianluca was there. The first person that was included in the video was Gianluca himself, who's the one that runs the hotel. But everything that you've seen, all the food was prepared, the appetizers, the breakfasts, everything is done in his kitchen with his own hands. Okay, so he has some helpers, of course, some chefs, but everything is done there. They even bake their own croissant, they bake their own bread for the morning breakfast. And what I should say is that when you enter that little hotel, you really feel like you are at home. That was the main effort that Gianluca wanted, that Gianluca put on the business, because that's what he wanted, to make people feel like they're at home. And this is also part of our experience, because we're living like the Venetians, both of the present and of the past.
And at the very end of our story, when our mission is accomplished, the wine that we drink and the appetizer that we are served are all made in La Corte di Gabriela. We are sorry, the video, something happened, but please visit La Corte di Gabriela website to see and experience how wonderful this place is. But show must go on. So our next guest, least but not last, is our amazing and fantastic dance teacher that we really, really love. Let's see if we can have Maribel's video. If not, we'll talk about her, no problem.
Yes.
There she is.
¿Qué tal? Mi nombre es Maribel. Soy española y vivo en Venecia porque estoy casada con un gondolero auténtico y original. En España enseñaba danzas del mundo y he decidido hacer lo mismo aquí en Venecia.
We're not lucky with videos. Wow, but you have seen the how strong Maribel is. She is fantastic. And please, Francesca, if you can go with the, well, let's see, maybe
with the pictures. Okay.
No, we have it.
Okay.
Do we have the pictures of Maribel? We can talk about her with the pictures. Abbiamo le foto di Maribel?
Okay, as we wait for Francesca to figure out what can be done, maybe she's trying to load them. There you go.
Fantastic.
So, this picture first, because I would like to say a couple words about Maribel. First of all, she was speaking Spanish. Well, okay, that was not Italian, that was not English, that was Spanish. Maribel, of course, she speaks Italian, but she comes from Asturias in Spain. And she's been living for years in Venice. As she was saying in Spanish, she is married to a gondolier. And she was a dance teacher back in Spain, and she's still works as a dance teacher, but since when she came to Venice, she got involved with a whole lot of different associations, historical associations that organize historical events, historical dinners, definitely wearing a costume. And in these pictures, you can see Maribel wearing different clothes depending on the experience she's taking part in. In the next pictures, we can see some more moments. You might have seen that she was wearing different clothes depending on the period. These clothes here represent the clothes of the 1700s in Venice, whereas in the very first picture, for example, that would be a costume of the 1800s. So depending on the period, of course, she wears a particular dress. And eventually, at the end of every single event or during the events, historical dance dances take place. This is sort of funny because of the very high wig she's wearing, as you can see. Here, this is a very interesting picture because Maribel is the one in blue on the left, and the lady in pink on the right is Giulia, the owner of of Sogno Veneziano, of the Venetian Dream, and that we've already met. So see, it's sort of like a big family that we're into because we all cooperate together, and we like to work together because it's nice also for us, not only for our guests. And in the next picture, again, Maribel dancing, wearing a totally different costume. But there is a picture coming up, which is one of my favorites.
Mine too.
Maribel and her mother. Her mother is 90 something. I forget, how old she is. She's over 90 years old. And Maribel takes her everywhere, dressed in that particular historical costume that is required for that particular event. It's really a joy to see them together, and it's amazing to see how this 90-year-old lady enjoys all this, and it's really fantastic.
Yes, Monica, it is. I mean, meeting Maribel is the experience in the experience, and also she is a fantastic dancer and a fantastic teacher. So we are very glad to have Maribel in your story, Invitation to the Carnival Grand Ball. But
Go ahead.
As I have said, we don't have one story today, but we are going to present two. So the second one, the title is Casanova, Seduction, Open Day.
Okay, there we go. Okay, this is a very special story living experience that was actually created by the lady that you see in the picture here, the one in the foreground. Her name is Laura Bumbalova. Laura Bumbalova is a friend of mine. She's also a qualified professional tourist guide. She speaks Italian, Russian like I do. She also speaks Bulgarian. She doesn't run tours in English though. And so that's why I will run her project, her story living experience for the English-speaking guests. Laura has created this very special project. As you mentioned, the title is Casanova, Seduction,
Open Day. So I wonder, what is the mission involved?
It's a very special mission. Okay, here we'll see pictures of Laura running the tour, not of me, of course. And, the whole idea behind the story is that, today, we've lost the knowledge about seduction of the 1700s, of the past centuries. We tend to approach the person that we like in very simple ways, quite frequently by using our smartphones, texting each other. Still, seducers like Casanova, like other Latin lovers of the past centuries, in particular of the liberty in Venice of the 1700s, are really appealing to us. Sometimes we could play the role in real life. And so that's the point, that's the mission, to become a seducer. Okay.
Wow.
And the first spot that our aspiring seducers will visit is a historical bookshop in Campo Santa Maria Nova. And in this bookshop, Claudio, the owner of the bookstore, will lead us to a very special corner with publications, with books written by Casanova himself and also by other poets and writers of the 1700s, like Giorgio Baffo, Carlo Goldoni, that I already mentioned, the playwright. And then there will be a whole lot of publications about libertine life in Venice in the 1700s, seducers. Sometimes even the pictures are quite evocating, I should say, both on the cover and inside the books, with some erotic elements. Hold on the previous picture, Francesca, be so kind, because I wanted to add just one thing about this bookshop. This is the beginning of our Storyliving experience. Here we'll read aloud some erotic poetry or prose, or just a love of poetry and prose, mainly of the 1700s by Venetian writers and poets, and also by English writers and poets, to find out the words that would be used in the past to seduce, sometimes in quite an explicit way, sometimes, in a subtle way, but that'll be the first moment. In the next picture, we can see again Mariangela's workshop, Vizio e Virtù, Vice and Virtue. Well, some of the partners of this story are the same as the partners of the previous story, because, by the way, we're talking about the same period and the same place, Venice in the 1700s. So these two stories have a lot in common. So we'll get to try again this particular spicy chocolate at Mariangela's workshop. But in this case, Mariangela will mainly focus on the aphrodisiac properties of the chocolate, because we're talking about seduction. Right?
Right.
And coming up, we have a picture where we see again Julia. Okay, so we go back to Julia's atelier. Again, we'll have to deal with costumes, masks. This very interesting black mask has a whole story behind, and Julia will unveil all the sorts of secrets behind the masks. But one very important element of seduction, except for clothes and masks, would be a whole lot of accessories that were needed. In the next pictures, we'll see some of these accessories. First of all, here Laura is holding a fan. Well, fans were very important in the 1700s, because depending on how a lady would hold a fan, she could communicate a whole lot of messages, whether she was willing to follow the seducer or not, whether she wanted something in particular. See one of the ladies that is wearing a costume again that reminds of the fashion of the 1700s, with a bauta on the right, that very particular costume with a white mask, and holding the fan in a proper way that Julia will unveil for us. In the next picture, we can see Julia drawing a mole with some makeup pen on the face of the lady. Now, today we draw moles using makeup, but in the past in Venice, a mole would be made out of black velvet. It was called a moschetta in Venetian, which means little black fly, because it's little and very black, like a fly. And depending on how the mold would be placed on the face, also the mold would communicate information and messages. A mole would be worn not only by ladies, but also by gentlemen.
So, Monica, a whole range of codes, actually.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Wow.
Again, pay attention to how cheerful the faces are. I mean, once you're dressed like that, once you learn how to move, once you learn how to use your fan, whatever, all these accessories that you have, well, you feel like you are a gentleman or a lady of the 1700s. And imagine how interesting it has to be a lady in between a gentleman dressed like Casanova on the left and a very enigmatic, cryptic mask on the right. In the next picture, we can see one other important moment of this story living experience. Now, here on the right, we can see Nicoletta. Nicoletta creates a whole lot of costumes again, but she has a specialization on corsets. Now, I believe that maybe the youngest don't even know what a corset is, but here you are. Here you have an example, and the following pictures also show you corsets. What is more seductive than a corset, after all?
And beauty is a pain. We
Yes.
as women know that beauty is a
Beauty
pain.
is pain. If you want to be beautiful, you have to suffer, and that's quite a lot of suffering. But anyhow, the result is incredible. And in Nicoletta's workshop, you really enter a totally different world that might be out of date from some points of view, but is really charming. Last but not least, the last place our aspiring seducers will visit is Arzanart. This is a workshop where Isabella and Federico decorate and create objects with high quality paper. They take high quality paper and they decorate the paper. Here you are. It's entirely made by hand, as you can see in this picture here. And as a result, you have an incredible range of colors and forms. Look, how precise every single movement needs to be. Now, the question might be, so what's the point? What does this have to do with our seduction? Well, this kind of paper that you can see here also, with different colors, different patterns, was known in Venice, had been known in Venice since the 1600s and became so incredibly popular in the 1700s. This is the kind of paper that Casanova wanted his publication to be decorated with. Okay, so the cover of his books needed to have this paper, and on a piece of such paper, my aspiring seducers will have to write down a love message, a seductive message, an invitation, some words of appreciation. You'll decide, okay? Taking into consideration everything that we've learned during our open day, seduction open day. And okay, that might sound a little bit out of date again, holding a pen and writing for real on a sophisticated piece of paper. But it'll be really, really elegant. And of course, at the end, after such an accomplishment, we'll have to celebrate. And who knows, maybe it won't be just, an experience. It won't be just a joke. You might really give this message to your beloved person. Why not?
That's very... Here we are back. And once again, Monica, wow. Also, fantastic experience, kind of same partners, but different features, different themes. So we have the Bob, the Carnival, yes, on one side, and then the seduction on the other side. We already met Giulia. We have already seen Vizie Virtù, the chocolate. But let's introduce to our audience two more partners, very important partners, Nicoletta and Federico.
And Isabella.
And Isabella.
Ciao a tutti, io sono Nicoletta Lucerna, sono una costumista teatrale specializzata in corsetteria. Sono contentissima di accogliere qui nel mio laboratorio tutte le signore che vogliono provare la sensazione di indossare un corsetto d'epoca e da questo un'arte millenaria della seduzione con questo accessorio che non morirà mai. Ciao, vi aspetto.
Ciao, siamo Isabella e Federico. Insieme abbiamo questo laboratorio artistico a Venezia dove realizziamo la carta decorata a mano secondo l'antica tecnica della marmorizzazione e lavoriamo da ormai 10 anni, ma abbiamo la nostra sede a Venezia da 2 anni. Mi piacerebbe partecipare a questo progetto per far conoscere una antica che è conosciuta a Venezia dal 600 e che veniva usata per irrigare i libri e che adesso è diventata una vera e propria forma d'arte e ci piacerebbe farla conoscere a più persone possibili per far conoscere l'artigianato veneziano.
Wow, what a beautiful language we have. That's why we decided to have these videos in Italian, and also but you will say that to us, Monica, to underline the very unique experience you will have meeting the locals who are real artisans, right?
Yes, it's something that is really important to me. I've been spending at least 20 years searching for artisans and workshops all around Venice. Venice is very rich from this point of view. We have jobs that you might think that they are just gone, they don't exist anymore. And instead, they are present in Venice. And the interesting thing about these partners that we work with, about these artisans, is that they are locals, okay? They live in Venice, they work in Venice, they may live outside, but they spend most of their time in Venice. Isabella, the last that was speaking, actually comes from the south of Italy. She married a real Venetian, Federico, and now she's really giving so much of her life to Venice itself. So it's not just, such places that you just visit as tourists, you go in, buy something, come out. These are people that really feel Venice. And with such experiences, it's not that you just visit Venice, you live Venice, and you get in touch with the Venice of today, the Venice of the past. You learn so much. And of course, after having met such incredible people, of course, your experience will be unique and definitely unforgettable.
Yes, so Monica, please stay here with me while I tell a little bit more about our Storyliving Experiences, what you have just seen, please remember that can be completely customized. I mean, the story behind, so the invitation to the Crown Ball and the seduction of Casanova, the story remains the same, but the activities can be added, can be removed. So the stories are completely customized. The passions involved are the same, but you can have it as, let's say, really as you want it. With all our stories also, it's important to say that you will find a product that is safe, controlled, and tested. This is guaranteed by the care that we put into creating the story, following our training and testing Storyliving Experience framework. And moreover, I would like to say, in this peculiar time that we are living in, and we really hope to host again a lot of guests in our amazing country, we guarantee that all our stories are away from crowds. They are actually usually made for small groups, individual families, and also because our special stages are usually off the beaten track. The JoynPlayce stories, they are like, say, the cherry on top for those tour operators or travel advisors who want to have a distinctive product to offer to their demanding clientele. So I really hope that with this episode and with the help of Monica, with her story, with the story of Laura, the aim was achieved, to let people feel the world of the Storyliving experience, to let you taste a little bit of our framework or our innovative way to make experience travel. So I really hope the aim was achieved. I thank Monica. I thank all our guests. There were a lot, even if they were not here with us. Come join us. We hope to be all over this quite soon. I remind you to follow us on our social, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Visit our website, as you can see here, to download our catalog and write us. I see some comments, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yes, somebody saying hola and ciao and hello in different language. I thank everybody for being here with us. I remind you that this episode will be online, so you can see it many times you wish. This is a kind of educational tour, let's say, like a virtual fam trip to see what is involved in these stories. But I remind you that we have a lot of stories in Venice and also in other parts of Italy, from north to south, and different passions involved: art, history, nature, I mean, a lot of things. Yes. So thank you everybody for being with us. See you next time. Grazie Monica.
Grazie
Ciao,
a te.
ciao, grazie mille. Ciao Venezia.